President Trump met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday. The meeting, which started out with an awkward hug, took on a positive tone as the two discussed their respective prowess on Twitter, as well as trade, climate change, and terror were also reportedly discussed. Smita Sharma is a foreign policy journalist who works in the region and joins us now. Smita, how was the president's meeting with Modi received?
Well, it's been received pretty well, I must say, because I guess the expectations had been kept low-key right from the beginning. That was something that all the journalists in India were being told constantly by the officials who were laying the groundwork. That was, I guess, because, you know, there was a sort of a nervous anxiety about how the meeting would go on, because prior to this meeting, the only thing that's always been spoken about President Donald Trump has been how unpredictable he is, how awkward he has been with several world leaders during his meeting. But just, 24 hours prior to the build-up to that meeting, there was a turnaround that we sensed while we were in D.C. reporting on this meeting. And the officials then started looking more confident, and they said that the outcomes would be happier than expected. So it's been received well, because the language that has been used in the joint statement and was used in the press remarks, it suits India, especially on key issues, be it relationship with China or countries like Pakistan.
It's interesting to hear you say that. We also know under the Obama administration, Smita, we know India had pushed hard to have Pakistan labeled as a sponsor of terror. And the Obama stance was, we're not going to do that. We need Pakistan's help in the war in Afghanistan. Do you get a sense that the Trump administration is looking at hardening their approach to Pakistan?
I do think that there is a growing frustration on the Hill. It's not going to be an overnight transformation that Pakistan is going to be declared a state sponsor of terrorism, though there are congressmen like Judge Ted Poe who have been pushing for such bills in the Congress. But remember, there is also that financial task force, the Action Committee that has put Pakistan under a lot of pressure. They are reviewing, in fact, the financial aid that flows into Pakistan. We do get the sense that there is an increasing frustration with the terror groups, because the feeling now is you cannot solve the Afghanistan problem really without addressing the groups and the terror operatives emanating out of Pakistani soil. That's a sense that is definitely happening around, and the designation of Sayyid Salahuddin, the Hizbul Mujahideen, in fact, leader, who is the first indigenous Kashmiri on Pakistani soil to be put on a State Department globally designated terror list, is an indication that it's a position that the United States is taking in a reverse sort of a way as far as these issues are concerned.
And, recently Modi's made some high-profile visits to Russia, France, Germany. We know he's heading to Israel as well. Is there a sense that if is he hedging his bets, the Prime Minister, with this budding relationship with Washington? If that doesn't pan out, he's got other options?
That's something that's been traditional to the Indian foreign policy in a way. India has been known for doing the tightrope walking amongst allies as well as amongst foes. So while India can go hand in hand with the United States, it also continues to maintain a good relationship, say, for instance, with Iran. So that's something that's been a very a part of Indian foreign policy. Though earlier, if it was about non-alignment, now it is more about, trying to invest in some relationships more than others. So it's interesting to see that how the defense partnership India and the United States, that has been growing strength to strength. It was of particular interest, remember, when Barack Obama had been invited as the chief guest for the Republic Day celebrations in New Delhi. And he sat on Rajpath in New Delhi watching Russian tanks, most of the Russian tanks, in fact, which India had acquired from Moscow, roll down the Rajpath during the celebrations. But now you have US and the Trump administration offering the unmanned Guardian surveillance drones, which was stuck despite several requests with the past administration. There is definitely a movement there, but India also trying to keep the other allies and the old partners happy so as not, to have its fallback plans, because at the end of the day, it's about taking care of your own national interests.
I want to ask you before you go, Modi's known for these big bear hugs, somewhat awkward at times. And while President Trump's appeared a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, is there any sort of rhyme or reason as to which leader gets a hug and which one doesn't from Modi?
Well, with Mr. Modi, I think everybody gets a hug. I, in fact, wrote an article before the visit saying between a handshake and a hug, it will be decided as to what's at stake really for this relationship. Because somewhere, South Bloc in Delhi had begun to feel that perhaps with this new administration, Mr. Donald Trump, with his energies focused on Russia, North Korea, China, India might not just be a priority. For them, it was important to come here and tell Mr. Trump that, look, India is a real deal, and there is a lot of win-win situation situation to be created. For Mr. Narendra Modi, had he not hugged Donald Trump, we would all have been surprised. But while that first hug was a quick hug, after Mr. Trump finished his speech at Rose Garden, where we were all seated, after the speech, perhaps I think Mr. Donald Trump had also prepared himself mentally that let this be a picture that kind of overcomes the past awkward dynamic shared in his pictures with the other global leaders, including Merkel.
Yeah. I also want to ask you, Smita, about the digital component to Prime Minister Modi. I mean, he is very active on Twitter, social media. What could you say that other world leaders could learn from the way Prime Minister Modi operates on social media?
He has definitely harnessed the power of the social media, but as critics would say, in a more of a one-way communication channel sort of a way, because he does interact with people. He reaches out to his constituency. He has a huge following on Twitter, on Facebook, and as Donald Trump put it there, that they are the world leaders in social media. We saw, in fact, the way he harnessed the use of social media to reach out to the younger voters when he won the decisive mandate in the general elections in 2014 in India. He's very quick to respond to world leaders, to congratulate them, to send out the messages that he wants to send out, while some would say that he chooses to stay silent on very controversial domestic issues and not respond to them, say on Twitter or on Facebook. And he knows that Donald J. Trump is another, liberal leader here who also loves to use Twitter. There are these shades of similarity between the two. Both of them challenged ruling establishments. Both of them have a strong sense of business understanding, and perhaps that is what helped them click as well.
Yeah, and the way both of them ran their campaigns, so many similarities between the two. Smita Sharma, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.